Hello. Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to the channel for another video. So most of the food that I eat, I absolutely love, and it just happens to come packed with nutrients. So much so that I really don't have to consider my intake of many nutrients. If I just eat a variety of all the whole plant foods that I love, I tend to get most of the things that I need. However, there are definitely some foods that I eat for more of a purpose, to either fill gaps that are in my diet or to give me something that other foods just can't. For each food, I'll talk about what nutrient I eat it for, what that nutrient does for our body or why we need to be consuming it, how much of that food I eat in order to reach an RDI or a beneficial amount, and then how I consume that. So while this video is definitely aimed at those of us who are eating a plant-based diet, which I know most of you who watch this channel probably are, it definitely isn't exclusive for plant-based eaters. These are such healthful foods that we should all be consuming. So don't think if you don't eat plant-based that this doesn't apply to you. You should still be eating these foods, and I think you'll see why when start talking about the benefits of them. So if you want to learn more about any of these foods, I will put some links in the description box down below to some other videos that I have on it, some longer, some more in-depth videos. This is something I wanted to put all in one nice, concise space because I often get so many questions about each of these foods I'm going to talk about. How much should I be eating? Do I really need to be consuming this? Why do you eat that certain food? So this is going to answer those questions. So the first food that I treat like a supplement is seaweed. So seaweed is a great source of minerals, but more specifically, and the one that we're going to be looking at today is iodine. So as you guys know, iodine is extremely important for the thyroid. It actually helps to keep our thyroid hormones in balance. And these hormones play a critical role in many of the reactions in our body, including enzymes, our immune function, our metabolism, and also protein synthesis. So I don't need to tell you guys this, but there's many different types of seaweed. Some of them have lots of iodine, some of them have very little iodine. So Dulse seems to be the best choice as far as having a good amount of iodine, but also being low in contaminants and toxins. It also has a fairly neutral flavor, and it is readily available in most health food stores, if not grocery stores. So the way that I like to consume it is just to put it on like a Buddha bowl or sprinkle it on top of stir fries or a salad or something like that. It goes really great in soups and stews as well. However, it does have a little bit of an oceany taste, so if you totally hate that, it might be a little bit tough for you to get down. And that's why it's one of these foods that I don't think of just like a normal food. I think of like a supplement, because if it didn't have that iodine content and the health benefits, I probably wouldn't be reaching for it too often. So you'll see Dulse in stores in either flakes like this or in strips as well. So I find the flakes are easiest for me to get down, but if you can only find the strips, you could always like pulse it in a blender or something like that to get it like that. And you guys probably also know of nori, which they roll sushi in, and this is another good source of iodine. However, Dulse is usually my #1 go-to, just because it's definitely a little bit more concentrated in iodine than this, so you don't have to eat quite as much. God, that smells bad. So how much Dulse do I need to eat in order to hit the RDI of iodine? So the RDI is around 150 micrograms. It changes a little bit depending on what life stage you're at, but for most adults, it's 150 micrograms. So in about 1 gram, which is 1 teaspoon of Dulse flakes, you'll get between 100 and 350 micrograms of iodine. So you can also hit your RDI of iodine by consuming iodized table salt. And you need to consume about 1/2 to 3/4 of a teaspoon of iodized table salt in order to hit that RDI of iodine. And for this reason, iodine intake isn't generally a concern for most people. Most people are, having food with table salt on it. They're eating processed food that has that table salt or iodized salt added to it. So for most people, iodine intake is not a concern. However, if you're like me, who cooks most of their meals at home, we don't actually have any iodized table salt. I don't generally eat out or anything like that, not a whole lot of processed foods. It's probably a good idea to consider your iodine intake, and I think that, Dulse is probably one of the best ways to do it. So there you go. Dulse for the iodine for the thyroid. But iodine is not the only mineral that benefits our thyroid. We also need to take in a good amount of manganese, and another one that's really important for the thyroid is selenium, which brings us to our next food, and that is Brazil nuts. So the reason why I treat these like supplements is for the selenium content. Selenium is such an important but often overlooked essential mineral, and it's really not found in high or reliable quantities in too many other plant foods, especially if it is not grown in selenium-rich soil, which is why I like to consistently consume Brazil nuts. So why do we need selenium? What does it do for our bodies? So selenium does a number of things in the body. One of the main things that it does is it's beneficial for our enzyme. And one of those enzymes that it's a main cofactor for is a very important one called glutathione, which is actually one of our body's main antioxidants. It's often referred to as the master antioxidant. This is super powerful at helping to neutralize free radicals, which can cause cell damage and then inflammation, and eventually will lead to things like cancers, other diseases. It also helps with the body's natural defense systems. Bacteria, viruses, toxins, heavy metals, pesticides, herbicides, even like exercise, all induce oxidative stress and thus use up our glutathione stores. So we definitely want to be supplying our body with lots of the raw materials in order to create lots of this antioxidant. And believe it or not, just one Brazil nut is enough in order to reach your RDI. So the RDI is 55 micrograms, and generally Brazil nuts contain between 70 and 90 micrograms per Brazil nut. So selenium is one of these minerals though that we can have too much of and it can become toxic. So we definitely don't want to do that. The upper limit is generally like 400 micrograms per day. And I mean, of course, if you have like 10 in one day, you're gonna be fine. You just don't want to have like 10 a day, you know, consistently forever. So yeah, just be mindful of the selenium intake. You want some, you don't want too much. Same goes for iodine actually as well. So there's actually a few things that you can do to keep your glutathione levels up. One of them, you definitely want to be eating lots of vitamin C rich foods. Another is eating sulfur rich foods. So things like garlic and onion, and also cruciferous vegetables. They have lots of sulfur compounds in them as well. And a good one that you could be eating is actually our next food, and that is sauerkraut. So we know that sauerkraut is made from cabbage, which is a cruciferous vegetable. It also happens to be high in vitamin C, vitamin K, folate. So there's lots of reasons to be eating sauerkraut, but yeah, the reason why I generally eat it is for the probiotics. So we know that probiotics are good for our microbiome, and the benefits to having a healthy microbiome are so vast. It definitely would take a lot longer than just, you know, this video to kind of highlight all of them. But you guys know, you gotta have a healthy microbiome because not only we are what we eat, but we are what we absorb. And having a good microbiome full with healthy bacteria, like the bacteria that's in this, is gonna help us to assimilate food a lot better. And I know it's just a personal testimony, but I can definitely testify and say that when I am consistently having sauerkraut, you know, a big spoonful with my meals, I definitely have better digestion. The microbes that are in sauerkraut and that are also in our gut are actually what's responsible for breaking down food into its usable form. So this is actually what is digesting our food inside us so that we can then use it, you know, for everything else that we need. So how much of this stuff do we need to eat? So there's no real RDI for probiotic intake, so there's not going to be a hard amount, but there is 1 billion cultures in 1 gram of sauerkraut. What does 1 gram of sauerkraut look like? I mean, I know what 1 gram of like some other things look like, so 1 gram of sauerkraut is not very much. Like, it is just like a fraction of a teaspoon, so maybe even less than this. 1 billion cultures. I know, it's crazy. So the most prevalent probiotic that is in sauerkraut is actually called Lactobacillus acidophilus. And if you've ever looked at the back of like a probiotic package, that's usually the one that they have the most of. It just happens to be in sauerkraut. So it's actually kind of cool is that there's the bacteria on the outside of the cabbage leaves, and then when you give it the right environment for it to grow and proliferate, and that's how you get sauerkraut. I wasn't gonna say it, but I have a video on how to make that. But what I wanted to say is that there are dozens of different types of probiotics that are in sauerkraut that work together. So that's why I think something like this is maybe even better than a probiotic supplement, especially with 1 billion cultures per gram. I mean, if you eat a few grams of this, many billions of cultures. And I know a lot of people worry that it's not gonna survive through our stomach acid, so what's the point in eating it? And that's actually not true. You can look it up, a good amount of it definitely survives through our digestive tract. So like with the seaweed, it's not something that I would just eat out of, you know, for just straight pleasure, but I do make sure I incorporate it because of the benefits that it has. So it's pretty easy to add to dishes. Like, I just like to add it to the side of stir fries or Buddha bowls or something like that. Like, you definitely don't want to cook it because that is going to destroy a lot of those probiotics. But yeah, if you just put it, you know, on the side of some hot food or whatever like that, it's going to be totally fine. That's usually how I have it. And if it's not going to go well with a certain meal, like if I'm having like curry or something like that, then I'll just have a good like spoonful of it or just like a little bowl of this before I eat or after I eat. And then I should put out a quick warning for those of you who have an intolerance to histamine. This is not going to be helpful, but what might be helpful is our next food, and that is turmeric. So the active component in turmeric that many people consume it for, and the reason why I consume turmeric like a supplement, is for its curcumin content. So we know curcumin is a super powerful anti-inflammatory and antioxidant, and it is so good for our bodies. Like if you look up all the studies that show benefits for turmeric, it is very immense. So it's good at helping to, as I mentioned, lower chronic inflammation, which we know in turn turns into disease. It's good for helping with different like neurodegenerative, I almost couldn't say that word, brain diseases. It's helpful for blood sugar, for digestion. It's good for the heart. So many different things. I could go on and on. So I know I've said this before, but one thing that you want to consume with turmeric in order to help with the absorption is black pepper. So what that does is it actually downregulates an enzyme that helps to get rid of or metabolize curcumin from our body, and that happens really quickly, but we don't want that to happen quickly when we want the benefits from it. So eating pepper with it is enough to downregulate that, where the curcumin and turmeric circulate in our body for longer, doing its work. So you want to consume about 3 to 5 peppercorns worth of pepper, which is just like 1 or 2 good-sized pinches. The way that I usually like to have it is just in my smoothies or smoothie bowls. I don't put it in a lot of my food. You can kind of sneak it into like pasta sauces and different like stews and soups and stuff like that. It is definitely most common in curries, as many of you guys know. That's what gives many curries the yellow color. And a quick warning about this as well. Powdered turmeric has been found to be contaminated with something called lead chromate, and it's a very heavy, metal, lead, that's actually the same color as turmeric. So what they do in some other countries is they add it to the turmeric to increase the weight of it, and we know that a lot of spices are sold by weight, so they end up getting more for it. However, we end up consuming turmeric with lead in it, and that is going to completely, negate many of the beneficial properties that we're trying to get from this. So one thing that you could do is to just eat fresh turmeric like this. It's really easy to find in stores. It's actually super cheap as well. However, if you can't find it, or you just want the powder stuff for convenience, you can always contact the manufacturer and ask if they do any third-party heavy metal testing, which I did contact these guys, and they told me that they did. So I think I forgot to tell you guys how much of this you want to consume. So along with the pinch or 2 of black pepper, you want to start with about 1/8 to 1/2 teaspoon of turmeric. That should be a good place to start for helping your body to fight some inflammation and stuff like that. But if you want to increase it, you can definitely increase it more, up to about a teaspoon a day. And I should mention too that it is fairly high in oxalates. So it's not going to be a problem for the amounts that most people are consuming. However, if you do have like some pain condition and you're like, oh, I'm just going to eat like cups of turmeric a day to help that, maybe don't, because that might not help you as well. So I know I mentioned the black pepper in order to help with the absorption of the curcumin, but another thing is actually fat. So curcumin is fat soluble, so having it with some fats is going to help your body to assimilate it even better. And a healthy fat that you could have it with is actually our next food, and that is flax seeds. So I eat flax seeds for many reasons, but taste definitely isn't one of them. I don't know if you guys like flax seeds out there, but I don't mind it. It's not like I really notice it when it's in like my smoothies, or if I mix it into some like pasta sauce, or I put it into my oatmeal or something like that. But it's not the kind of thing that I'm having just like spoonfuls of. So that's why I treat this like a supplement. It's not something that I consider eating just because I enjoy it. I consider having it because of the benefits. Flaxseed definitely is the king of omega-3s in the plant kingdom. Chia seed is up there as well, almost as high as flax, but flax definitely is the highest. And then there's also like hemp seeds, walnuts are other good sources too. But usually if I'm just thinking about omega-3s, I reach for the flax. These dietary omega-3 fatty acids modulate so many processes in the human body, including the brain and visual development, inflammatory reactions, blood clotting, cancer growth, so many different things. So I don't want to get too deep into it in this video because it's kind of boring, but we know that ALA is the parent omega-3 molecule. That's what you get from flaxseed, from hemp, walnuts, chia seeds, and our body has to then convert it into EPA and DHA. The conversion depends on many different factors, so that's why it's hard to say exactly how much flaxseed somebody needs to eat in order to hit, their RDI or a healthy amount. One of the main factors that's involved in converting ALA to EPA and DHA is the amount of omega-6 that's in your diet. It competes for the enzymes that help with that conversion. So the more omega-6 that you have, like the more refined oils, refined foods and grains and stuff like that, then the worse that conversion is going to be. So generally with good conversion, most people will get enough omega-3s from about 1.5 to 2 tablespoons of ground flaxseed. But again, this is not a recommendation. It might be different for you. And I did say ground ground flaxseed because it is important that we grind it. The same goes for chia as well, but we're not talking about that right now. Flaxseed, you want to make sure that you grind it or mill it, or else your body is just not going to absorb it. You can actually buy it pre-ground if that's more convenient for you, or you can just like grind it up in like a coffee grinder or a blender or something like that. You can cook with it. You can store it for, you know, a few weeks or even a few months. Just make sure it's in a sealed container, away from light, and it will be totally fine. So the benefits to eating flax and getting your omega-3 levels up are endless. Like, this would be a 2-hour video if I talked about them all. Actually, maybe even longer. I probably don't know all the benefits, but I know one worry that a lot of men have is that it might not be good for their testosterone. So this just isn't showing to be true. People worry about the phytoestrogens, that it's gonna mimic estrogen in the body. It just doesn't work like that, and there's studies that show it, and it's even actually protective against many hormonally modulated cancers. So yeah, it's definitely something that we should all be eating. Helps to lower like blood pressure, can help lower cholesterol. So many reasons to eat flaxseed. And I know this is just like a personal testimonial, but I've been eating so much flax for years, and also like tons of soy as well. And I had my testosterone levels checked, I think it was like last year or the year before that, and they were totally fine. So, you know, I know it's just a personal anecdote, but here I am. So I think that's it for this video. It was information packed. Hopefully you guys are not sleeping by now. But if you did enjoy the video, definitely hit the like button. It lets me know that you like these kind of videos, so I'll do more of them. Definitely subscribe if you aren't already. I'll see you soon with another video. Let me know down below in the comments as well what kind of videos you guys want to see. It's a new year. I'm gonna be banging out lots of videos this year, so let me know what kind of content you want to see. Thank you guys for watching. See you later. Having a good balanced microbiome can keep you healthy by... Hello. Ow! Come on. Can also keep you healthy, but come on, kitty.